going to take a deep dive into what I consider the most heinous, despicable, and evil thing ever perpetrated by a parent.
I was my dad's sex slave.
You said that you would wake up to your father on top of you.
When I was 6, he started kissing me. I was 7 years old. He started sexually abusing me. My father fed me drugs. He put a bag over my head and suffocated me.
As unimaginable as this story is, you haven't heard the worst of it yet. Meet Tatiana. Now, Tatiana left Brazil and moved to America at just 6 years old to live with her parents. Almost immediately, her father began forcing her to do drugs so he could sexually abuse her and beat her feet black and blue with a bat. At 12 years old, Tatiana's father pulled her out of school and sexually assaulted her every single day. He installed security cameras and motion sensors around their home, making it impossible for her to escape. She says she was terrorized by her father, who regularly threatened to kill her if she ever told anyone about the abuse. But then at 25, after 19 years of torture, she was finally rescued. Take a look.
Right now I'm broken, confused, and I don't know if I can live a normal life. I was sexually, physically, emotionally abused by my biological father, Landolfo Tibes. I was abused for 19 years. I was my dad's sex slave. Anything he wanted, I had to do.
A lot of these pictures, I'm smiling, but I'm dying inside.
From when I was 6, he started kissing me down there and touching me down there. He would tell me not to tell, and he would ask me if it felt good. My father was a karate instructor. He would sexually abuse me in the studio. My mom was not there. She was a nanny. She did odd jobs, cleaning houses. When my mom was off to work, that's when he would come and prey on me. My dad made me lure men to the house to have sex with me so he could watch. When I was about 15 years old, it became routine. But the times that I would not bring men back, he would beat me up and say that I was lying, that I didn't try. Not only was he sexually abusing me, he was physically abusing me, hitting me with baseball bats, anything he could grab, even extension cords. He would grab my feet and just smack it like that. Bam. My knees were bruised and I was bedridden for days. I couldn't walk at all. Out of nowhere, I would wake up just blows to the head, to the body. He was paranoid. My father was on drugs the majority of the time that he abused me. My father fed me drugs from 6 years old. He introduced me to alcohol, marijuana at the age of 8, cocaine at 10. I was a prisoner and he watched me 24/7. The abuse got worse when he pulled me out of school and I wasn't even really allowed outside the house. My dad installed surveillance cameras inside the house. He had alarms as well and dogs. We had about 7 Rottweilers at one point. He had sensors under the bed so I wouldn't be able to leave at all at night. I couldn't even go to the bathroom at night. I had to use the bucket next to the bed. I had to wake him up and tell him I had to go use the restroom, but that was rare because I did not want to wake him up because it's like waking up the beast. On a day-to-day basis, I would have to cook, clean, basically living like his wife. I never tried to escape. I wish I did. He threatened to kill me. Plenty of times I contemplated hurting him, but I was just so scared of the unknown and I just gave in.
Well, Tatiana, I'm very, very glad you're here. And rest assured, I'm not going to ask you any details that embarrass you here. And I just want to say that while I'm glad to meet you, I'm just really sorry for the circumstance. My question, in looking back on this, how do you think your father was able to keep this a secret from the world for so many years?
I have no idea. He just was very personable. He's very smart. He's read a lot of books.
This got to the point that he was performing like 10 sex acts a week. I mean, this was an intense assault pattern on you, correct?
That is correct.
And the earliest remembrances you have of this were at what age?
6 years old, that one picture that I
Right.
gave you guys,
Right.
me holding the doll.
And at 6, you say that he would kiss you, he would touch your privates, but it wasn't long after that in addition to that being inappropriate, wrong, and humiliating, things began to get very painful, correct?
That's
Because he
very-
began to violate your body in that way.
Very correct.
When was that, and what happened then?
I was 7 years old, 8 years old. He started sexually abusing me.
And he started giving you drugs. What did you think about that? Did it scare you when you started getting fuzzy?
It scared me a lot when I started getting fuzzy, and I remember several occasions exactly not knowing what was going to happen afterwards.
You said that you would wake up sometimes to your father on top of you, and it's just something that makes it difficult for me to use that word father. This man on top of you, just beating you. You're asleep, you wake up, and he's just beating you. Was there any sense of why?
No, I have no idea. For whatever reasons, he came up with his own reasons as to why he was beating me up like that and waking me up like that. And it was all through his paranoia. I just know that I had to sleep almost with one eye open, scared.
You said he would take a baseball bat and beat the bottoms of your feet.
He would make me give my feet to him, and I would do as much as I could because I didn't want the swinging to go everywhere, because there was times also that my knees were so bruised, my elbows, everything, because he was just swinging.
You say at age 10, he was a karate taekwondo instructor. You say he raped you in the studio, in the dressing room.
Correct.
So there were other people around, but he would take you there early before the class started?
Correct.
Now, you say at age 12 that he took you out of school.
He didn't want me to get close and maybe open up to somebody.
Looking back, do you feel guilty that you should have told someone?
I do feel guilty, and I should have never continued to let him manipulate me and do what he was doing to me, but I was so scared and uncertain. That's all that I knew.
You think about this now as an adult, you have to remember how old you were when this was going on. You can't judge what you did at 8, 9, or 10 with a 20-something brain. Because as a child, we just know what we know as a child. And people don't understand that at that age, a prison is more than motion detectors. A prison is more than locked doors. The psychological prison, the psychological barriers are much more powerful than a locked door. And when a child is controlled by an adult with the fear of what will happen if you tell.
Correct, yes.
And, people wonder, having gone through this, how you can discuss it so calmly. But you've learned to push this down and encapsulate it, haven't you?
I sure have, sir. I was able to manage living that horrible situation. So in my sense, I figure, him out of the picture is, I'm okay.
And as unimaginable as this story is, you haven't heard the worst of it yet. We'll be right back. Did you pretend you were a family? What did you do?
Pretend I was a family, trying to be nice, always be on his good side. Even having sex, I would just let him have his way, get it over with, and go on about my day.
Monday, their daughter was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and mom believes their son has it too.
He has schizophrenia.
He's never been diagnosed.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and she is questioning Bodie about his meds.
Do you need medication, yes or no?
You are not competent to make a decision about what medications he needs.
Then you provide me the doctor who is.
That's Monday. Then on Wednesday, they claim mom
I drink a lot.
is MIA.
This is me texting her over and over and over again. 12 days, no response. My notifications were turned off.
That's Wednesday.
This picture, so when I was 12 years old, you kind of tell that I'm intoxicated on this one. My eyes are real low, eyes of somebody who smoked something. He was already abusing me without the heavy drugs, so he was just doing it because he could abuse me more. I would hate it when he would get the drugs, I tell you that much, because then it would be like so much longer that I would have to endure it. My father was a drug addict. The abuse would be more when he was on drugs. It would be a week or all night abuse.
For nearly 19 years, Tatiana was held captive, forced to take drugs, brutally beaten, and sexually abused by her father. But there's more to it than that.
As a result of my father sexually abusing me, I was pregnant a total of 4 times with 1 abortion. I have 3 children with my father. I was 16 years old when I became pregnant with my first daughter. I was 21 years old when I was pregnant with my second daughter. I was 24 years old with my third daughter. He used to mark down my period cycles, and I was late. I was shocked and I was happy, but I was confused as well. When I gave birth to my first child, it was very scary. It was intense. They asked who the father was. I said I didn't know. The sexual abuse continued during the pregnancies. He raped me, but he would not beat me as much. I would still get beat. I would still get my hair pulled. I would still get smacked. One time when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, I was about 7 months pregnant, and he tied my hands behind the chair, put a bag over my head, and just suffocated me. I felt like I died and I came back. My first daughter was born. She was like, you know, my little angel. I just wanted to protect her. She was just my little friend because I had nobody, so all I did was, you know, play with her. I was really happy, but yet I was really sad because I didn't know what was gonna, you know, become of us.
So you gave birth to 3 of your dad's, I can't say that word. You gave birth to 3 of this monster's children.
Correct.
And you had 1 abortion.
Mm-hmm.
You're now 38. You have these children who are how old now?
21, 17, and 14.
21, 17, and 14. And you say that having a child gave you purpose.
That's right.
Gave you purpose to exist, survive, get through this. How did it change when you had a child?
Changed my well-being as well, being in the house by myself, having nobody else to lean to, you know, talk to. It was...
What would you do to cope? Would you try to make nice with him? Did you pretend you were a family? What did you do?
Pretend I was a family, trying to be nice, always be on his good side. You know, even as far as to having sex or whatnot, you know, I knew that he was going to do it anyway, so I wouldn't, you know, try to fight him off all the time. I would just let him have his way, so that way it would be easier and get it over with and go on about my day.
As perverse as this sounds, and I have to ask this because I want to get everything on the table, because I want to help you. Were there times that you convinced yourself that you enjoyed this in any way? Were there times where you found pleasure in a given instance that you thought, well, that was okay?
No, I would try to tell myself it was okay, but it never felt okay.
That's what I mean. You tried to tell yourself,
myself.
This was okay. This is like husband and wife.
Right. But deep down inside, I knew it wasn't okay. Just like my everyday life, I know that my past and my girls are not okay, but I have to live as if it's okay.
Yeah. Who else was around when this was going on?
Just my brother. He was more in the house.
Yeah, and nobody knew.
And let me tell you this, sir, and even after my brother, 2 years after he left, he didn't come back.
Do you think he knew what was going on?
And he was scared as well.
The obvious question in everybody's mind is, where was your mother when all this was going on? We'll get that answer after the break. You had 3 children with him. They got to the age where he started abusing you.
Correct.
Did he hurt them?
This February, their daughter is schizophrenic, and now mom says her son is too.
He has both autism and childhood schizophrenia.
He's never been diagnosed with child onset schizophrenia.
A show.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and she is questioning Bodie about his meds.
Do you need medication, yes or no?
That's never.
You are not competent to make a decision about what medications he needs.
Then you provide me the doctor who is.
To be asking that question is reckless and irresponsible.
Ended like this. It's Dr. Phil February.
This is our house from 14 to 25. This is where I lived. If those walls could talk, they would say a lot. One day, my father just stabbed me so hard in my hand that it almost went all the way through, and I still have nerve damage on that hand to this day. He would tase me as well when I was around 14, 15. He did it like 5 times. He was taunting me, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I was really scared.
Well, Tatiana says in order to cope with her father's constant abuse, she tried to convince herself that they were in love, this was normal, there was some way to just live with this as though it was okay. Knowing deep down inside it wasn't okay, but she would try in her mind to accommodate, to adapt to it in some way. Where was your mother when all this was going on?
My mom worked a lot, and that she still does. She's a worker. And I mean, she was gone most of the time.
And she worked, what was her job?
She used to house sit, dog sit. In the beginning, she was doing odd jobs. And then she was a caregiver. She turned her profession into being a caregiver, and she was gone.
So she would take care of those that were bedridden, and she would be gone sometimes 24/7, days at a time, right?
24/7, yeah, at one point.
But did she have no idea this was going on?
No, sir. And everybody asked me, you know, even if she were to had asked me, I would have said, no, that's not going on. You know, my mom was abused by him as well. And, you know, I don't know, sir. I get what everybody says, she should have seen something, but it's hard, you know, when you're in the situation yourself.
Right. No, I get it. And he abused her.
Correct.
And he abused you. You had 3 children with him.
Mm-hmm.
So they grow up in this house, and they got to the age where he started abusing you.
Correct.
Did he hurt them?
He did hurt them physically one time. I remember several times, just, you know, kind of spanking and stuff like that.
Do you know if he ever sexually assaulted any of the 3?
I've heard from my daughter that he had tried to sexually assault her when she was 7 years old.
What did you think when she told you that?
I was even more disgusted by him.
What did you say to her?
I told her I was really sorry that I did not remember. It was one incident that she said that I got him in the room with her, but I had blacked out. I didn't even know this had happened till years later, and that I attacked him.
So, alcohol, drugs to control you,
Mm-hmm.
and this included crack,
Mm-hmm.
meth.
Mm-hmm.
He'd do anything he could to alter your consciousness, right?
That's correct.
And keep you in the zone. Looking back, how young were you when he first gave you crack?
About 14 years old.
Meth?
I'm the same, 14.
Yeah. How do you feel seeing that?
I'd never seen that footage before.
Is it good to see him shackled?
I'm in shock right now.
Tatiana finally escaped her 19 years of abuse after her father was arrested, but she nearly died in the process.
One day, my father was extremely high on methamphetamines after days of not eating, sleeping, and thought I was trying to kill him. That's when he tried to kill me. He became paranoid, and he thought that I was sticking a needle in his lung. I said, if you're really feeling that you're gonna die, let's just go to the hospital. He had a knife in his hand. I convinced him, and he started driving me to the hospital. We got to the hospital, and he circled around several times. I was telling him, kids are there by themselves. We had 5 Rottweilers in a little hotel room. I tried to jump out the car, and I wasn't fast enough, and he stabbed me twice in the chest, but I was still able to get out and run. I don't remember ever looking back. I just ran. He did come after me. I went right in for surgery. The knife wound was so deep, it was 1 centimeter from the sac of my heart. I told them my boyfriend did this. I don't want him to go back and get my children. They said, okay. So when I woke up from my surgery, I told the authorities, those children are my father's children. I don't want to go back to him. When they said that he was in custody, you can only imagine the relief I got from that news. It's something I thought I would never experience. It was a rebirth. I call that my born again day because I almost died. Not only I almost died, I was free.
How do you feel seeing that?
Oh my God, I'd never seen that footage before. I'm in shock right now. Wow.
What do you think as you look at that?
I have no words for it right now.
Is it good to see him shackled?
It's good to see him shackled. It's very good to see him shackled. But it's also, it's sad. But how can a father do this, you know, to somebody? Like, I just wish every day that he didn't have to do that. You know, that he could just be your dad. And I missed out on it. My girls missed out on it.
You feel cheated out of what you didn't have as well as what did happen to you.
Exactly. Everything. My whole life, I feel, has been a cheat. And if it wasn't for my children, I would not be here right now, Dr. Phil. I wouldn't. I would have ended my life a long time ago.
Are you glad that you have survived?
I am super glad that I've survived, yes. But I know I have a whole lot more surviving to do.
What if I told you that some things were going to happen today that were going to change your life?
Well, are they good things or bad things? It all depends. Sorry.
No, I would expect you to check all the boxes off, all the possibilities, given who you are. Good things.
Good. I would be super happy.
Well, Tatiana's father chose to represent himself in court, and to this day has never admitted he did anything wrong. So where do you go from here? What does she do? He's in prison, she's not. Is she free? Or is he still controlling her? We'll talk about that when we come back.
I would describe Lindolfo Tibbies as an evil sociopath narcissist. This had to be the most extreme case of sexual abuse that I've ever investigated. Talking with Lindolfo was like looking at the devil. The hair on the back of my neck stood up.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. She believes her son is schizophrenic.
You are not competent to make a decision about medications.
Then you provide me the doctor who is.
That's Monday.
At my dad's trial, I testified. It was horrible. I hated it because I had not spoken with him since he stabbed me. During the trial, having to hear his voice, it was nerve-wracking, and then to top it off, he was representing himself, and it was like he was having a conversation with me. It was really disgusting. I remembered that he asked, "So you're gonna tell me you did not have a good childhood, a good upbringing?" And that pissed me off. He said, you know, you had the opportunity per se to speak out about what happened, and you never did.
Well, in a unanimous decision, a jury found Tatiana's father, Lindolfo Tibbies, guilty of forcible rape, sodomy, and inflicting great bodily harm on Tatiana. The key evidence, DNA test that confirmed that he was the biological sperm donor of Tatiana's children. Take a look.
Lindolfo Tibbies is the most pure evil man I've ever met in my life. I would describe Lindolfo Tibbies as an evil sociopath narcissist. I was the lead detective on the sexual assault case involving Tatiana. I've investigated approximately in excess of 3,000 sexual assault cases. This had to be the most extreme case of sexual abuse that I've ever investigated. After, taking the initial report, collected DNA evidence from her and from the 3 children, then had to get a sample from Lindolfo, who was still in custody from the attempt murder. The entire time I was obtaining his DNA sample and telling him the reason for the investigation, he adamantly denied ever abusing her sexually with narcotics or alcohol. And the DNA was clear evidence that he was in fact the father. In 2009, during the trial, Lindolfo decided to represent himself. During the cross-examination, when Tatiana was on the stand, Lindolfo accused her several times of actually wanting to engage in sex and making it up to ruin his life. Talking with Lindolfo was like looking at the devil. He looked right through me, rage and hatred coming from his eyes. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Lindolfo told me that he was going to kill me and kill her as soon as he got out because we were ruining his life. He is absolutely one of the most heinous individuals I've ever had to deal with.
Well, joining us now is Rick Carr. Rick was the lead investigator on Tatiana's case, so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You spent the time investigating this, questioning him, and it sent chills down your spine. You're probably the only other person on the planet that can imagine what she went through because you dealt with this guy. It had to just be horrific.
It was unbelievable, and the one thing that always stuck out in my mind was just how courageous she was from the first moment I met her till the sentencing. She was unbelievably brave, just as she's being here today, and of 30 years of police work, the most courageous victim I've ever met.
Yeah. Now, when I agree with that, and this guy was incredibly narcissistic. Right up to the DNA, he denied any involvement doing anything at all, right?
Entirely, yes.
Once it was proven through DNA evidence that he in fact had molested her, assaulted her, raped her. Then he started to just blame her. She wanted this.
She wanted it. She basically sexually assaulted him.
Yeah. Now, he turned down a plea deal, right? What was the story on this?
I believe the initial offer from the district attorney's office was a 30-year sentence, which he turned down.
Why do you think he turned that down?
I think it comes back to what you said, being the ultimate narcissist, and now we could make another show about him where he gets to abuse her even more during the testimony.
He traded 79 years in prison to harass you one more time.
I know. I did not know this. This is first that I hear. I never knew this.
He had a deal for 30 years. Instead, he got 109 just so he could harass you one more time. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here today and your sponsorship of her and your commitment to this case.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Phil.
It's why I bleed blue, my friend. I'll tell you
I appreciate
what.
that.
Next, Tatiana says 2 of her 3 children know that her father is their father. She really wants to know how to tell the youngest if she should. She said, what do I do about that? I'm going to answer that question after the break.
In the past, I've dated men that hit me, pushed me, verbally abused me. I take so much abuse from other men because in my mind, no abuse will ever amount to the abuse that I already been through. By somebody treating me wrong, or even hitting me, it's not gonna compare. And I even told my current significant other right now, the only way you could ever really hurt me would be if you cut a limb or you kill me, because my father's done it all.
Well, after being held prisoner and physically and sexually abused for 19 years, every day, by her father, Tatiana says it's still a struggle. I want to talk about 2 things. Your youngest doesn't know, right?
Correct.
The question becomes, do you want her to find out from you or from the internet?
Me.
You definitely want her in a controlled and loving environment when you tell her this. And when you do tell her, you want to be sure that you're prepared to bust some myths. And we'll help you with some talking points here that you can use when you talk to her. But you want to bust some myths, because people think, if there's an incestuous relationship, then there are problems with intellectual development and health issues, and there is a higher risk for certain complications, but that's not a given, as you've seen with your other daughters. I mean, you have wonderful daughters, and they're bright and thriving and all of that. So you need to dispel some myths so she doesn't have a misunderstanding of what she's in for, and you're going to want to tell her that in every dark cloud there's a silver lining, and for you, she is that silver lining. There's certainly nothing for her to be ashamed of, and there's nothing for you to be ashamed of. You 2 were victimized in this, but there are some talking points that you can have when you talk to her, but I think you should do that in a way that is surrounded by love, and if the other 2 sisters can be there, and you guys can just do this in a matter of unity where she has an opportunity to wrap her head around it. And we'll give you some talking points in detail about how best to do that. But she's old enough to do it. This is the time to do it. The time to do it was not when she was 7 or 8. And it's not 5 years from now. The time is now. And we'll help you to do that.
Thank
you. I asked Tatiana a few minutes ago, I said, what if today is a day that can really change her life for the better? She called me on that. I do have a plan. I'm going to tell her what it is when we come back. know what's coming up on Dr. Phil? Visit our website and subscribe to our email newsletter. You'll get weekly updates, life strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else.
Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today.
Tatiana, I said, are you really free of him? You really aren't. You're really not, because you have, in a sense, still given some of your power away, and he is able for you to feel in any way like you're damaged goods, like you're second class. That means you have a damaged personal truth, and the problem with that is we generate the results in life we think we deserve. I see open wounds in you that aren't healed yet. People ask me sometimes where I learn things I learn and get counsel. I read a book one time that's the most powerful book I've ever read, and it's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl is a Jewish psychiatrist that was a prisoner of war, and he wrote about those experiences, and he said, they controlled whether I lived or died every day. They controlled whether I sat or stood, whether I ate or starved. They controlled every aspect of my life but one. They couldn't control the attitude I took about it. They couldn't control my spirit. They couldn't control my mind. And what attitude I took about it was, I'm going to survive because I must create meaning to this suffering. And that's why the title of the book is Man's Search for Meaning. Your job is to find the meaning. Why did this happen to you? How can you use this in the world? You're using your life right now, because there are women right now that are trapped in situations, probably not as egregious as yours, but trapped in situations that will say, I do need to reach out. I do need to tell someone. You are saving thousands of women's lives as you sit there in this chair right now.
I hope so. I sure hope so, Dr. Phil. I do.
But you cannot give away what you don't have. You have to take care of yourself first. I want to introduce you to somebody that's on Polycom. He's a dear, dear friend of mine. His name is Miles Adcox, and he is the owner and CEO of an organization called OnSite. Now, OnSite is a place that does intensive workshops for people that have been through trauma to help them with self-worth and self-esteem and mental health issues. And it's the most beautiful campus you've ever seen in your life. The only problem with it is people don't want to leave once they get there. And Miles is the creator, and he runs this organization. Miles, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Honored to be here, Dr. Phil.
Well, thank you for joining us. You've been listening to our conversation the whole way. Can you help us with this precious woman?
Not only can I, Tatiana, I'm honored to, honestly. I am fortunate I get to represent some of the brightest trauma practitioners in the country at my place, but I need to tell you, they're sophisticated clinicians, but they're humans first. And we obsess about curating safety, emotional safety and psychological safety here. And I don't know that I've ever met a human more deserving of having that feeling, maybe for the first time, to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, to be loved, to be respected, and unpack a lot of that baggage you've been carrying too long that's not yours. I can't wait to welcome you here.
Thank you.
We're offering this to you, and I want you to take that help. Will you take that help?
I will definitely do so. Thank you so much.
All right, good. All right. Now, I also want to add my dear friend who's going to work with OnSite, because when you get out of there, this is Coach Mike Baer right here. And Coach Mike Baer is a life coach. He is really experienced and beloved by his clients. He works with A-list celebrities, everyday people, and he focuses on helping clients break patterns in their lives and in a real action-oriented way. And what we want to do is get you a life coach that is elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder with you to say, I'm going to change my walk in this world. We're going to make different choices. Maybe it's different career, different, whatever it is, but you're going to have a personal life coach that walks you every step of the way and starts putting your life together the way you deserve for it to be. And Mike, tell her what we're talking about here.
Is you deserve to have the biggest, best life possible. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at all the things you were lacking: education, parenting classes so you don't recreate anything amongst your kids, intimacy courses, and we'll develop and devise a plan so that you get the life that you truly deserve.
Thank you so much.
You know, Mike he's not a life coach, he's the life coach. He has a new book called Best Self, Be You Only Better. And that book was written for you. Fair enough?
Fair enough, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
we have a deal. All right. I want to thank all of my guests today. A very special thanks to Rick Carr and Coach Mike Bear. And Miles, thank you for changing your schedule and joining us today from on site. All the rest of you, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.